Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Next important part of the circulatory system in humans is the blood. Blood is a fluid connective tissue which flows inside the tubes which are known as blood vessels. There are two main components of blood, the plasma, which is the fluid matrix of the blood, and the cells, the WBCs, RBCs and the platelets. First, the plasma. Plasma, as I told you, it is the fluid matrix of the blood. It is pale yellow in color. It contains 92% of water. Only 8% of it is solutes like nutrients like amino acids, glucose, also gases and hormones. Now, the function of plasma is it gives fluidity to the blood. The blood can easily flow in the blood vessels, and also it plays a role in transportation of the soluble nutrients. There are three types of cells: RBCs, WBCs and platelets. RBCs are the red blood corpuscles. They are circular disc-shaped cells. They are red in color due to the presence of a iron-rich red-colored pigment called hemoglobin. We studied a bit about it in the respiration chapter. The RBCs are produced in the bone marrow, while the older RBCs which are degenerating, they are destroyed in the spleen. This process is called hemolysis. The RBCs play a very important role in transportation of oxygen from the respiratory surface to rest of the body. As we studied in respiration, the lungs contain alveoli. So the air which we inhale contains a lot of oxygen, high amount of oxygen. The alveoli are richly supplied with blood vessels. The oxygen enters into the blood and this becomes oxygenated blood. This oxygen combines with hemoglobin to form a complex known as oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin has affinity for oxygen, it forms a complex. This oxyhemoglobin that flows into the blood and supplies oxygen to all the tissues, all the cells of the body. It is very important because oxygen is required for cellular respiration. Next is the WBCs or the white blood cells. They are colorless as they do not contain hemoglobin. They are mainly of two types, phagocytes and immunocytes. The phagocytes ingest germs and they kill them, while the immunocytes secrete antibodies which help in killing the foreign bodies. So together, the phagocytes, immunocytes, together all the WBCs play a very important role in maintaining the immunity of the body against the foreign objects like bacteria, virus, etc. Now, let us differentiate between WBCs and RBCs. The RBCs, they are enucleated, that is they do not contain nucleus, while WBCs are nucleated. They have nucleus in the cell. The RBCs are red in color due to the presence of a red colored pigment which is rich in iron, that is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is absent in RBCs, so they are colorless. The function of RBCs is transportation of oxygen by forming a complex known as oxyhemoglobin, while the function of WBCs is boosting up or maintaining, forming the basis of immunity of our body. Now, apart from RBCs and WBCs, the third types of cell is the platelets. The platelets are colorless, non-nucleated cell fragments of different shapes. The main function is the blood clotting. Whenever there is an injury or a wound, the platelets coagulate together and they seal that region so that there is no loss of blood from the body and there is no entry of germs from that region. So they play a very important role in blood clotting. Now, what is the function of the blood as a whole? So each constituent has its own function. Let us understand. First is the transportation of nutrients. The nutrients from the intestine, which they are absorbed through the villi, they are transported to all the cells for storage and for assimilation. Secondly, transportation of oxygen from the respiratory surface, that is the alveoli, the oxygen is transported to all the cells, all the tissues for cellular respiration by forming a complex oxyhemoglobin. Thirdly, transportation of carbon dioxide. During metabolic process, carbon dioxide is produced, which is toxic and not required by the body. So it is transported from the tissues to the lungs for exhalation. It is to be eliminated out. Then body's defense. The blood contains WBCs, which help in making the basis of our immunity. They help in killing the foreign objects, foreign bodies. Next, transportation of hormones. The endocrine glands in our body secrete hormones into the blood. The blood then transports these hormones into the target sites, the target organs, where the hormones show their action. And also transportation of nitrogenous waste. During metabolic processes, the nitrogenous wastes are produced. They are transported to the kidney. Inside the kidney, the blood is filtered and nitrogenous waste is removed or eliminated. There are many other functions. These are the main functions of the blood. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is blood vessels. The next part of circulatory system of human system is the blood vessels. The blood vessels are tube-like structure inside which the blood flows. So the blood vessels are of three types: arteries, veins and capillaries. First, arteries and the veins. Let us compare them. The arteries are the blood vessels that carry oxygenated blood from the heart to different organs. So they are actually distributing blood vessels. On the other hand, the veins are collecting blood vessels. They collect the blood from the organs and bring it towards the heart. So from heart to organs, the arteries; from organs to heart is the veins. So the arteries carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So there is an exception, pulmonary artery. Except pulmonary artery, all other arteries carry oxygenated blood. On the other hand, all the veins carry deoxygenated blood to the heart, from the organs to the heart, except pulmonary vein. This pulmonary vein will carry oxygenated blood. So there is again an exception. Just like arteries, there is an exception, pulmonary veins, which contains deoxygenated blood. It carries it towards the lungs to get it oxygenated. Inside the arteries, the valves are absent, but however, valves are present in the veins to prevent the backward flow. The walls of arteries are thick and elastic, as you can see here, while the walls of veins are thin and less elastic. The lumen, as the walls are thick, the lumen in which the blood flows becomes narrow, while on the other hand, in veins, the lumen is wide. The arteries are usually deep-seated, deeper into the skin, while the veins are superficial. You can see it from here. You can see the shadow of the veins here. The blood flows under high pressure into the arteries, into this lumen, because of the pumping action of the heart. It is pushed into the arteries. That is why blood flows with high pressure. On the other hand, in veins, the blood flows with little pressure. So this way you can compare the arteries and the veins, the two main types of blood vessels. One which carries the blood from the heart to the organs. Most of the arteries carry oxygenated blood. On the other hand, the veins which carry deoxygenated blood from the organs back heart, with only one exception, that is the pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. Now, the third type of blood vessel is the capillary. As the artery reaches the organ, it divides and redivides into very tiny branches, which are known as capillaries. These capillaries then reunite to form the vein. So the artery carries the blood inside the organs. It divides into very small branches, these forming a bunch of capillaries. These capillaries then reunite to form the veins. At this site, when there is a network of very thin branches actual exchange of materials takes place with the tissue. These branches are very narrow. They have very thin wall, usually single cell layer walls, so forming a network in each part of the organ. So they help in exchange of material. The required material, the material like nutrients, like oxygen, which are required by the cells, they are transported to the cells, while on the other hand, the materials which are waste products for the cell, they enter into the capillaries, then they are carried from the veins. So basically arteries and veins, they join together at this side, that is the capillaries. The transportation system in humans has basically, we can divide it into two broad types, that is the circulatory system and lymphatic system. Circulatory system consists of heart, blood and the blood vessels in which the blood flows. We studied about it in detail. Another important part is the lymphatic system. Lymphatic system consists of the fluid known as lymph, and which flows inside the vessels called lymph vessels, and then there are lymph nodes in those vessels. Unlike blood, lymph is a light yellow colored fluid. It does not contain RBCs, WBCs or platelets. This fluid is filtered out of the capillaries because I just told you the walls of the capillaries are very thin. Blood is filtered out. So the part of the fluid which is left there in the tissues, also the secretion of the tissues, the fluid which is secreted from the tissues, these two fluids combine together to form the liquid which is known as lymph. Now this lymph is important, so it has to be put back into the blood. This is the purpose of lymphatic system. The lymph vessels, they collect all the lymph from the tissues and then they open up into the vein. So all the lymph is put back into the circulatory system through lymph vessels. This way the volume of the blood is maintained. Now in the lymph vessels there are certain swellings at certain portions. These are known as lymph nodes or lymph glands. At these sites they filter out the germs and the foreign particles and kill them. So this way the lymph nodes are a site of our immunity. They help prevent us from various diseases. So this completes the circulatory system of humans.